Okay, but I'm telling you that's the way the world is. We don't look for help. Why should we give help to others?
This is, Zena, this is your father's book, the Satanic Bible. I mean, this is it. This is the diatribe of the devil that has brought together thousands of people in your belief system. Mm-hmm. I dip my forefinger in the watery blood of your impotent, mad Redeemer and write over his thorn-torn brow, the true Prince of Evil.
Isn't that poetic?
Do you believe that, Zena?
And aren't you taking it a bit out of context?
I'm reading it. I mean, I'm reading it.
Well,
Hand me that Holy Bible, and I'll read you something, too.
Zena, you know what I'm reading. I mean, you know the book. It's page 30 right here.
Jesus is the true Prince of Evil.
Will you let me read something from my own book?
Well, let me read it first,
Oh,
okay?
and why is that?
You don't want to... I'm reading...
Why can't I choose things to read as you would choose things from your book carefully
because
to read?
I'm the person conducting the interview right now.
Well, maybe we should interview you.
Survival of the fittest.
I gaze into the glassy eye of your fearsome Jehovah.
Right.
I pluck him by the beard. I uplift a broad axe and split open his worm-eaten skull.
Right.
Did you know who wrote that?
You tell me.
Do you know who Ragnar Redbeard is?
Who?
Ragnar Redbeard?
No, yes, Redbeard, yes. He wrote this. Well, your father's re-quoted it here.
Okay.
Whatever the case. Now, this is violent. This is abusive. It is...
To Jehovah?
It's insulting, but beyond the insulting part of it, do you not find any reprehensibility in using this kind of language? Mind you, I don't believe that Buddha is God. I don't believe that Muhammad was a prophet. But I would never write something like this about Muhammad or Buddha.
That's because you feel like you have to please everyone.
No, because I would have some feelings of sensibility. I mean, you don't feel that there's any inciting of any violent rage in people in this type of language?
Obviously there is.
Of course
I'm asking Zena, do you?
Of course there is.
Oh, you do believe there is the inciting?
There's the inciting of some realization. I wouldn't say of a violent rage. There's the inciting, what I've heard anyway, that people read that and they say, yes, that's the way I've felt all my life.
All right, I want to go through the 9 satanic statements, and I'm going to ask each of you alternately, if you will, to elaborate on them so that there is no misunderstanding.
Should be pretty self-explanatory, but...
Unlike the Christian Bible, the Satanic Bible speaks for itself. It requires no scholars to have councils of Trent to decide what this word meant or that word.
I wouldn't say that the Bible does either, but let's get to the 9 satanic statements, okay? Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. Zena?
Isn't that self-explanatory? What is indulgence? That you have to be good to yourself before you can adequately be good to others? Is that evil? Is that wrong?
Are there any limits on that indulgence?
There's another section in the Satanic Bible that differentiates indulgence from compulsion.
Okay.
Maybe you'd
and
like
self-destruction.
Would you not, let's suppose that a pedophile's indulgence were the molestation of children. Would you place that under this particular heading here of the first satanic statement, if that's his indulgence?
It's clearly stated in there how we feel about children and animals, and you know it.
I'm asking you.
It says in the Satanic Bible that we revere children and animals above all things.
So there are limitations on the indulgence.
Of course. There are limitations imposed by your own self-discipline and fortitude, not because you believe what you read from God. That's a very primitive and silly way to go about living. We live because we know what is right for us.
You know.
Mm-hmm. And to us, as it says in this...
You've constructed your own individual reality.
And I think it works a hell of a lot better than the Christian one.
Okay. Well, since you talk so much, I'm going to come back to you for number 2. Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. I think that does need some explanation. What do you mean?
I really don't see how it does need explanation.
What is vital existence?
You don't know what vital existence is?
I'm asking you.
Our life here and now, living for, as I've said, all of the earthly and carnal pleasures. What is a spiritual pipe dream? looking to some external deity or source for your answers. If something horrible happens to you, you just pass it off and say it's God's will. I'd call that a spiritual pipe dream.
Okay. Nicholas, Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit.
Look at the world as it really is. Don't delude yourself into thinking it's a way that it is not by calling upon holy cant and scripture as your guide to life. Let's look at the real world, look at the human condition as it exists right here and now.
Okay. Number 4. Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it instead of love wasted on ingrates. See it?
Well, I already explained that too, insofar as turning the other cheek. Kindness, if you're kind to me, then obviously I will be kind to you. We treat people as they treat us. If someone's going to be rude to us or treat us inappropriately, then they have to expect that in return. We won't waste our kindness on what we would consider ingrates, and that is being treated with disrespect or rudeness.
Number 5. Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. And let me flip over here to page 33 and also quote in companion to that, quote, hate your enemies with a whole heart. If a man smites you on one cheek, smash him on the other. He who turns the other cheek is a cowardly dog.
Doesn't that speak for itself?
Yeah?
What's your
Well,
point?
what would you do?
I'm just asking you. I'm asking you. These are your beliefs.
Right,
Hollywood
those-
Boulevard, and you are attacked by a gang of drug dealers for no apparent reason. What would you do? Would you bow
Pray
down
for
to them
or
and
would
say,
you
I'll pray
strike
for
them
you?
back?
Or would you try to do something to survive?
Well, you see, I don't. You're asking. Do you want me to
No,
answer
you
the
asked
question?
me
I'll be
hypothetical
happy to answer the
questions,
question.
so-
You see, I most certainly, if my life were endangered by someone who murderously or violently were attacking me, now some Christians would differ on this. Some would say kneel and pray. I'm not one who would kneel and pray. I don't run 5 miles a morning for nothing. I'd run. I'd get out of there as fast as I could or fight for my life. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about vengeance and revenge.
If you wrong me, however you wrong me, I will give you that same wrong back.
But if someone is physically striking you with their fist or hitting you with a steel rod, there is no question in anyone's mind you're being wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But in the abstract, and this is what we get back to earlier, it seems that you reserve the right always to determine who is the wronged party by your natural brute instincts.
Yes,
and what
I
I'm
do.
saying
That's right.
is that the Bible tells us that the heart is deceitful and wicked, and who can know it? And common sense tells us that we all have been mistaken at some point in our lives, assuming that we were the wronged one, when in fact we may have been the person hurting someone else.
The Bible teaches us to hate our own instincts. The Bible is a guidebook to how not to survive.
No.
The hero of the Christian religion is someone who willingly sacrificed themselves. Now, to me, someone who willingly dies on a cross and thinks that's a victory is a neurotic person. I don't worship such a God. So if you want to sacrifice yourself, go ahead. We want to live and survive, and you live by returning a wrong back to the person. It's very simple.
And I think that's the irony, too, of all the accusations of our sacrifices, whether they're children or animals or whatever. The whole concept